episode 111, and we have Karen Briscoe. So a little bit of background of hers and the things she's currently working on. So she's the creator of the transformative 5-minute success concept, which of course we're going to talk about that. Her books, Real Estate Success in 5 Minutes a Day, Secrets to a Top Agent Revealed and Commit to Get Leads, 66 Days Challenge, offer a combination of information and inspiration delivering through memorable stories. Another things to cover, she's the host of the 5-Minute Success podcast, which has ranked #1 on Overcast, most recommended in the business category. So congratulations on that. The show has an amazing array of guests who achieve success at a high level. So make sure to go and check it out on Overcast. And of course, you're going to find it on iTunes. Karen is the principal owner of the Huckabee Briscoe Conroy Group, HBC, with Keller Williams. The HBC Group has been recognized by the Wall Street Journal as one of the 250 top realtor teams in the United States since 1977. HBC Group has sold over the number 1,500 homes valued over $1.5 billion. The team consistently sells over 100 residential properties annually, ranging from multi-million-dollar luxury real estate to condominiums and townhomes. So, of course, you have to get in contact with Karen and on social media, find more information on 5minutesuccess.com. I mean, there's a lot included. There's even a Skype if you want to get in contact with Karen too. YouTube, FlipTime, lovelive.com, Facebook groups. I mean, there's a lot. So all of that is going to be included in the links down below. But Karen, I just want to say a big thank you for joining me today on the show.
Well, I'm thrilled to be part of the Beating Alpha community because the idea, the concept of beating alpha, I think that's a motto of mine for my entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, here you go. Here you go. I'm very happy to have you on. I mean, I got winded a little bit by just reading this accomplishments that you had so far. I mean, it's pretty incredible, at least that I can say. So maybe we can talk about your personal kind of beginning stages, because that's like it's very fun sometimes to hear people's journeys, and everybody has a different journey. So maybe you can share yours. Like, how did you get involved with the real estate business? The books. I mean, give us your story, please.
Well, so I actually started out in dirt in Dallas, Texas after college. Worked for the Trammell Crow Company, where the development firm where we bought land and put it in streets, utilities, and sold lots to home builders. And met my husband there, and we had our 2 children. And his career took us from the Dallas region to the Northern Virginia, Washington, D.C. metro area, which was over 25 years ago. And I actually was the primary caregiver for our kids for about a dozen years. And so I share that because I want people to know there was a lot of, concern that stepping out of the workforce all those years would have an impact on my career. And I'm just going to say, I've found a way to achieve a high level of success. And so if I could do it, you can too. So when I wanted to reenter the workforce, I went back into the commercial space. I was with the Starbucks company and had the Nextel account and the telecom company, and had managed the sales, engineering, warehouse offices for Nextel. Well, if you've seen one sales and engineering and warehouse office, you've seen them all. It was pretty cookie cutter. And the industry was really going through a lot of disruption because it was right after the tech bust. And the one thing I've learned about markets is that when they're in disposition mode, there's very little money to be made. And Starbucks lost the account, and I would have had to go work directly for Nextel, which I did not want to do. So I had an opportunity to go to the residential side of the industry. And to be frank, in the commercial world, a lot of people think that residential people do all the fluffy stuff, the soft skills like relationships and emotional, aspects to working with people. And it's true, it is. And I brought in the hard skills of the commercial side that I learned how to do, market analysis and strategy and negotiations. And what I discovered very rapidly is I actually am very good at both sides. I have a strongs in both the hard and soft side. I actually like the emotional aspect to it because I see that commercial is, pretty bottom line black and white. And whereas residential, you really get in relationship with people and you get to become a part of their life, which has its own aspects to it. But I met with success very rapidly. And when people meet with success rapidly, right, people notice. And this was in the early 2000s. And so the agent Huckabee, Sue Huckabee, which is the namesake, she was number 10 in the nation, asked me to join her team, become her partner, which I did in 06. And then in 08, she passed away. Well, that's also when the financial markets crashed and the real estate market did as well. It was a very challenging time to be in the business while at the same time losing your business partner. And so I set about to rebuild. I had a lot of muscle memory because I had started in commercial and real estate in the early 80s, and I had been part of the industry during the savings and loan crisis, which I felt similar. It was different, but I still felt similar aspects to it. And I pivoted more quickly than others, made adjustments to my business and brought on a business partner. Lizzie Conroy is my partner still today in 09. And we set about to rebuild the business. We first survived and then now we're thriving. And when that happens, a lot of times people, they want to know, right? So like, how did you do that? Not only did you survive a crash, but you also went through this very significant impact to anybody's business. And so that led to a lot of speaking and coaching and training, which led to writing the book, because I had a lot of people say that I had stories that were memorable, that they could apply to their business and life. And so there was a lot of encouragement to write a book. And the way the title came about, the 5 minutes a day, I had a lot of people say to me, and it feels like this is kind of an epidemic of nobody having enough time, right? That people say they want to do personal and business development, and yet they don't have the time to do it. And so to break down that barrier, if you will, that objection, that limiting belief, I said, well, do you have 5 minutes a day? And everybody said they did. And it's truly it's Parkinson's law, actually, is what applies, why it works. And that's because with Parkinson's law, limiting and restricting time actually often makes people more effective and efficient. And I'm sure you've experienced this in your community. When the day before you get ready to go out of town, you're the most effective and efficient because you want to get a certain number of things done in order to, leave town or to just take whatever it is that is you want to do. And so it's true. Oftentimes too much information can be tsunami-like, right? So you go to a training or you go to any, a webinar, it doesn't have to all be physical, but you'll oftentimes, if it's too much, then it's tsunami-like. You don't actually bring in the information and apply it. So that's why the impact of the book, I believe, and then as happens with this journey I've been on with this 5 minute success, is the more I discover about time and talk with people about time, I've kind of become a time expert now.
Here we go.
Here we go.
That's very interesting. That's very interesting because time management is something that business people it's very important. Like that topic, it cannot be overlooked, right? Because time is, again, as you mentioned before we started recording, everybody has the same amount of time. It's just like, how do you go about with it? I mean, how do you manage it? Because people manage. Some people no, you cannot manage, because management, you're managing the time, which is already, you're trying to do this and it's just too much. But what is the concept besides the 5 minute success? Can you talk about it a little bit more?
Well, the time aspect of it, managing time, is you really hit the nail on the head. It's not really managing time, it's really managing yourself. And it's energy, not time, is a fundamental currency of performance, of high performance. And so there's a quote by Lao Tzu that time is a created thing. To say I don't have time is like saying I don't want to. So if you're saying you don't have time to do it, it's because you're not choosing to do it, right? So that you could go to coaching therapy, whatever, figure out why you're not doing it. Now, how can you set up the habits to change so that you will do what you say you're going to do? And there's some time hacks that are effective. The Einstein said time is relative, because if you think of doing something you don't want to do, like he uses the example of putting your hand on a hot stove, but I use the example of sitting in a boring meeting or in traffic. Not that anybody sits in traffic anymore, but if you were to ever sit in traffic again, time stands still because it's not meaningful, right? But if you're doing something meaningful with somebody you love or something you're passionate about, time flies by. So that's why it's relative. So the idea is, and this is where the flip time concept comes in, is to flip the pyramid. You may recall from your psychology days of Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So there's this pyramid, right, where most people work their way up the pyramid. They start with the basic human needs. So this really became very evident in the early days of COVID, because basic human needs of toilet paper became people's main priority, right? I mean, that's what everybody was talking about. Then the safety security needs, well, that's still very evident in the time of COVID, because people are making decisions based on, am I safe at home? Am I secure at home? Or in whatever environment I'm in, right? They're work, school, they're making these decisions based on that. So this is a very basic human need. Then you have your esteem needs, which is usually your kind of productivity needs. Are you successful as a person? Relationship needs, where you're, you know, the people you love or the people you want to be with. And then the self-actualization needs. So it's at the top of the pyramid. So what often happens is people are working their way up the pyramid. Oftentimes they run out of time, right? And that happens. Or they keep putting it off until whatever, right? And then they've finished their next project, or the kids go back to school, or kids graduate, or they whatever it is what they're waiting for, they're putting it off. So what I've learned about time is that to have the most impacted, to be, you know, real estate, we talk about, we want the land, we want the real estate to be at its highest and best use. So if you think about yourself as your greatest asset, and beating alpha, right? Yourself. And Warren Buffett said that. So if you want to look at the, you know, to him and his wisdom, the Oracle of Omaha, he says your greatest asset is yourself. You should invest in yourself. So the idea of flipping time is to flip the pyramid and start with self-actualization, or start with meaningful work. Some people call it flow. Some people call it zone of genius. Start with that, because that's going to have the most impact. If you think about it, if you're doing work that's meaningful for you, you're going to be in better relationship with yourself. You're going to be in better relationship with people you're around. You're going to be more productive. And then just by virtue of that, your physical needs are going to be met. Many people say, well, I still don't even have time to do that. So then that's where I say, well, break it down. Because the idea of management, a lot of people, this whole idea of work life, it's like a balance on a teeter-totter, right? So one goes up, the other goes down. It shouldn't, if you're truly living a full life, a meaningful life, you shouldn't be one area of your life being up and the other area of your life down, right? I mean, that's not a full life, right? So what you want to, I found, is if you start small, build up, that also is a proven method of habit formations. In 5 minutes a day, you'll often make an impact. You'll start to experiencing the benefits of it. And there's a lot of habit research about this, but you want to build up the consistency of doing it, because it can have an impact in a lot of different ways. It can have just the ripple effect, you know, that you'll be, again, more authentic self. And it could have a domino effect, right? Like, so you knock over one area and then other areas, you know, fall into place. Or sometimes it's snowball, it builds. Sometimes it's exponential. Sometimes you'll hit on something that'll be like I could say the 5-minute success. I hit on the 5-minute success and everything just started, like, exploding. I mean, my business actually doubled since I started doing it because I have so much more energy because I'm doing creative work. Whereas before I enjoy my work, but I was getting burnt out, which happens with a lot of successful people, right? This happened with me out of success. Sometimes it happens out of crisis. People have an awakening or whatever, and then they go, I got to make changes. But you can do it out of choice, and you could do it out of success too.
Got it. So one thing that I wanted to ask you, because you a little bit laughed when you kind of talked about uncovering who you really are, kind of something in that. So like, is that something really, because in this day and age, we do like, especially when it comes to the mindset and success, people talking about kind of copying it, they call it duplication, right? Duplicating what a lot of people do. And of course there is some traits, and probably the key points, like of course time, managing kind of, having time in place and know how to kind of live this all around like balanced life is very important piece. But what about, finding like who you really are, is there ways that somebody can uncover? Because again, you uncover that, but a lot of people there, especially when it comes to social media, you kind of see the projection, what they would like to be, because it's all, Photoshop kind of, like it's a perfect image of what they want to be. And that's not how they look in real life when they get up in the morning. But, like, how is that important to the overall success as a business person or just human being?
Well, there's a lot of there to unpack. What I've discovered is the best way to describe it is the hero or heroine's journey. And most movies are based on the hero's journey. And heroine's journey, a lot of literature. And the reason why it resonates is because it rings true, because when you're on your own calling, your own call to adventure, it could also be a calling of contribution. It could be a calling of significance, of creativity. So, but when you're on that call, then that's when you're truly, pursuing what you're meant to be doing, right? And so it's not the same for every person. Sometimes it's an internal drive for the call, sometimes it's an external event. So the best example of that is Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, right? If you think about Dorothy, she wasn't happy in Kansas and she really wanted to run away from home, honestly. And then the twister happened, knocked her into propelled her into Oz. And then she went on this journey and she met mentors along the way and friends, which often happens on the journey of finding your zone of genius or your flow or what it is you're called to do. And then, but she also met challenges along the way, right? The Wicked Witch of the West, the winged monkeys. But she discovered all along she had it in her, right? The whole idea of, she clicked her heels and went back home, to go back home. She could have done it all along. But the journey is where she received the gifts of, and that's where then you return with the gifts that you share with your community. You have a big community, your Beating Alpha community. I have the 5-Minute Success community. You're sharing those gifts with others. And in doing that, the heroine goes back out again. It's really not a one and done. It's and you could be going out and doing a different adventure the next time. Like, okay, just think about how many times you said your podcast has reiterated, right? So each one of those was, okay, you went out on this, what you thought was the journey to be going on with your podcast. And then you met with the challenges along the way and you reiterated, you regrouped. Just like, this is where I think I can add the most value, where I can make the most contribution, where I can make the connection with people and it will resonate with them so that then they can, beat their alpha, right? So, and you evolved along the way too, right? So that's what I see. Yeah, still right. Well, because when we stop,
this is not the final form
that yeah. Well, so but if you think about it, people who stop, right, they stagnate. That's why water, the Dead Sea is dead. It doesn't have any flow. It doesn't have a flow in and it doesn't have a flow out. So as soon as people stop going out on their calling, or they succumb to just the drudgery of whatever it is their life is, they stagnate that way too. And so the idea is you want to be constantly evolving, or, listening to your call. So sometimes people are like, oh, well, how do I know what my call is? I think the best way to describe it is, there's a book by Elizabeth Gilbert called Big Magic, and she also wrote the book Eat, Pray, Love, which is what she's most famous for. But the idea of big magic is, in the universe, there are ideas that are floating around. I just think about when electricity was quote unquote invented. Do you realize that there were 3 men, Tesla, Einstein, and Westinghouse, all were coming up with ideas for electricity at the same time? Now they kind of had different concepts, but they all were energy related, right? And so that time had come for that to be manifested. So when these ideas come, they come to people. And that's what created the urgency for me to do 5-minute success. Because when it came to me, I was like, oh, okay, well, that's a great idea. I'll do that when I blah, 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 have more time. When I read about that urgency, it was a race to electricity wars. Go back and read the book. It's fascinating. It was a race.
Watch the movie. There's a movie called Hardcore. Yeah.
Yes, there's a great movie about it. So there's an urgency. There should be an urgency to your calling. And you should want to do it. You should be driven to do it. Because if you put it off, what often happens, if its time has come, it's going to go to someone else who's going to put the energy. Remember, I said it's energy, not time, is the fundamental currency of high performance.
Do you mind if I ask you a little bit, a few more questions on the mindset? Because I think it's a crucial piece when it comes to building your personal business. And of course, we're going to talk about you running this agency and making all these sales, which is part of it. Huge part of it is, again, your mindset and the way you look at things. So any advice you would have for people, again, who are stuck in a mindset of, oh my God, there's COVID. I'm not sure what's going to happen with my job in the future. I mean, I'm uncertain about like everything. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Maybe the meteorite is going to hit Earth. I'm just uncertain about everything, right? So how do you talk with these people, and how do you guide them to kind of find their internal why and reasons why they should do things and why they should go and study and, like become better themselves?
Wayne Dyer has a wonderful quote along that line. It's change the way you look at things, and the way you look at things changes. And I find that is, for me, when I get stuck in the sky's falling and seeing all of the negatives, I first of all focus on what I'm grateful for, because oftentimes it's not as bleak as it seems. And I stop and focus on what I'm grateful for. And, even in the time of COVID, I mean, we had stay-at-home orders for 3 months. That was a very challenging time, trying to help people navigate. Fortunately, Virginia Homeland Security declared real estate essential service. So we were able to conduct business, but in a very, very different way than we had to constantly, reimagine how we would do business and help people. We have a lot of new systems in place. So I will say the benefit of it is we have a lot of new systems in place that we didn't have before. So we learned a lot. I mean, I think about I've actually been in 5 recessions. And I could probably tell you the lessons of every recession. And I've learned a lot. I mean, for one thing, I've learned I'm really resilient. So I look for the things I'm grateful for, the things that I've learned. And then I look for ways to change the way I'm looking at it. Because you can, the Chinese symbol for, crisis is both danger and opportunity. So in times of what appears to be danger, there is likely to be opportunity. I mean, I look at all the conversations I've been able to have with people because we have Zoom, right? I mean, and all the people that have been able to pivot and change the way they look at it, change the way they do their business. So I would just encourage you to focus on that. And then I'll give you another Einstein quote, and I may not say it exactly, but there's two ways of looking at the world. One is that nothing is a miracle, and the other is that everything is a miracle, right? I mean, you can look at everything and say, find ways of looking at it from the danger and the opportunity.
Got it. Got it. It just takes me a minute. Like I need, yeah, it's very powerful message. So, like guys and girls, you maybe have to go back and rewatch it a couple of times, kind of maybe take a few notes because it's very powerful what Karen is sharing. So thank you so much for that. One thing again that I wanted to ask you and kind of transition a little bit more towards what you're currently working on again with your owner, with your agency, and you're principal owner of your agency too. And I mean, part of that is again the mindset and is acquiring leads, making the sales. Because again, $1.5 billion in sales, that's a lot of leads and a lot of sales,
That's a lot
right?
of real estate.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
And that's actually my core competency. I mean, my main gig is I sell houses. So that's where the real estate success in 5 minutes a day core principles came about. And there's four. The first one is commit to get leads. You said that. You hit it the nail on the head. So that is business development, prospecting, lead generation. And I like to say that everybody does lead generation. So, right, the investor is looking for deals to do, also maybe looking for money to fund the deals. The dentist is looking for patients. The minister is looking for parishioners, people to listen to them. So everybody is in lead generation. So it's a commitment to it, because it's in that commitment, then you create the pipeline of just a consistent product. And one of my key strategies to that is what I call activity blocking. I don't advocate time blocking, although it does work for some people. Other people, they just find a way to flitter away the time and not actually get anything done. So I recommend selecting a certain amount of lead generation activities you're going to do a day. I think 5 is a great place to start. I'm very low tech, and I take a calendar and I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This actually works for really lead generating for anything I've found with podcasting, lead generating for guests, lead generating to be a guest on other shows. So there's principles, and then once you have met those leads, done those leads, you can track them. So the consistency is really key. I've been contacting 5 leads a day, business day, since 2002 when I started on the residential side. So that is a bit, you could also front load, you can work ahead, you can backfill, but most importantly, you can track and you can figure out your avatar, right? Your ideal client, or if you're an investor, your ideal lead or your ideal fund source or whatever it is, because what you focus on expands, and what you put out energy wise is what you're going to attract back. So want to put a lot of energy into figuring out who is your best lead source, and then put energy into attracting more of those. And I'm a firm believer that it requires energy, okay? Because a lot of people talk about the law of attraction, and I am a believer in the law of attraction, but not necessarily the way some people talk about it. I believe in it because because what I found is it's not always matchy-matchy. This is where I think people get caught up in the law of attraction. They think, I contacted that person, so I've attracted them, and so then they're going to come to me. I don't find doesn't always match that way, right?
Follow up and the kind
right.
of the law of action.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So, but by putting it out there, the law of action, by putting it out there, I am telling the universe I'm ready, willing, and able to help people with their real estate needs. So it may not be the person I contacted that calls me. It may be this other person over here that just thought of me, right? So it's that kind of energy. So that's the commit to get leads. The next component is consult to sell. So as any investor out there knows, you got to get the deal done or there's no money coming in. And that's the transactional aspect, but also the conversion. So many people call it conversion because that's what in sales vernacular, but I call it consulting because I find that approach if the deal is right for that person, it's going to come out through the consultative process. And that is, I find, to be more effective long-term for ongoing business than this hard sell conversion.
Yeah, because that's what I wanted. Sorry, because that's what I wanted to say. That's where the actual sales happens in a consulting part, right?
Yes, because you're meeting their needs, or you're solving their pain point, or you're helping them project out to where they want to be, and you're going to help them achieve that. That's consulting. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're doing your work. I mean, it's not a magic, but you are doing your work. But you're helping the client so they want to do business with you. Mm-hmm. And then the connect, build, and grow, because what often happens in sales, really any enterprise that, particularly if it's very entrepreneurial, gets stuck on this, hamster wheel of only as good as your next deal. So you wake up, you get a lead, you get it to settlement, or you get a deal, you get it closed, and then you do the same thing the next day. And there are principles to set in place to connect, to build and grow a business, to create leverage, scale, systems, an ongoing enterprise that has, the sustainability and also a succession plan, right? Because any business that dies with the founder was really just a one-hit wonder, right? If you can't create scalable, sustainable systems, then you're just a one-hit wonder. Or you may make 2 hits, but you're not going to be remembered. Your business isn't going to survive. And then we've talked a lot about mindset and motivation. I say that surrounds all of those principles with success, thinking, activities, and vision. So we talked a lot about thinking, and then we've also talked about the vision of what you want to create in your life and your business. And then it takes the law of action, the activities in between. Because there's a lot of mindset people that are just like, oh, say your affirmations every morning and create a vision board, and it all just happens. I'm a firm believer that it happens to the people who do the action, the activities in between.
For sure. And one of that is, again, as you mentioned, just hitting, a lot of points instead of hitting one is leverage and leveraging other people, which, again, you have many agents, and I don't know the exact number, but maybe you can share how many agents you currently have.
Well, so we're in a very expensive market area. Our average dollar value of our real estate home is $1 million. So it's a sophisticated clientele, which requires a sophisticated agent, somebody who can navigate that level of transaction. So myself, my business partner, and one other agent are the primary. I'm still the rainmaker. I say still. I am the one that generates the most business, the core business. And then we have a couple other agents that work with us and staff. So we're definitely a great team, and we operate that way.
So the question that I had that I wanted to ask you, again, for the people who are watching this and they're looking to hire their employees, so it doesn't have to be an agent or an assistant. Like, is there a specific process that you go through when it comes to vetting people that you're looking to employ, or maybe you have a certain strategy for that?
That is a really good question. I look for fire in the belly, and that's really hard to describe. But
probably the person who's going to come to you, he probably already supposed to have all the goals in line, all the motivation, basically the homework supposed to be done before he comes to you, right?
Yeah, I'm fine with training. In fact, I actually find that better to be somebody who doesn't have experience in other, because what often happens is they're many times have bad habits, and it's harder to unlearn a bad habit than it is to teach new habits. But if they've met success in other areas, and I mean, it could even be when I love young people. I really do. I find that they have great energy and ability to be moldable, mendable. So I actually appreciate the younger generations. But the idea is that they have this drive, this internal drive. In fact, there was a research that came out of Harvard on what makes for top salespeople. And it's two parts. One is drive. So this internal fire in the belly that they want to make something happen, and this energy. And then the other side is empathy, because they can connect and relate to people, particularly in our industry where people are often going through a very, even the positive aspects to buying and selling a home can be stressful. And so you need to have some empathy. So what happens is, if somebody has too much drive and not enough empathy, then they're a bulldozer. If they have too much empathy and not enough drive, then they just let the person bulldoze them, or they don't have enough to move people. Because in our industry, we're really change agents. I mean, people want to move. They tell us they want to move, but to get from point A to point B requires a lot of commitment. And they often need the agent to be the person who will help them make their what they want to have happen. And so I find that if and this research is for salespeople, entrepreneurs, not just residential real estate agents, but I find that to be what I look for when I'm talking with people. And I think it's true for staff too, because I think about the team members, the staff members we have, they have a certain level of urgency of getting things done, right? But they also recognize the people aspect of it, of, they want to work with people to help them do it in a way that's works best for the team. So they're not, they have both sides.
Got it. Okay, so there's some tips for hiring process. Love it. Thanks for sharing that with us. One thing that I wanted to ask you is, again, state of Virginia. Is that where you focus on the most when it comes to selling residential properties?
Yes, I'm licensed in Virginia. So we're in the Northern Virginia area, which is right outside of Washington, D.C., inside the Beltway, where Amazon HQ2 is, the CIA, Pentagon. But my business partner's licensed in the District of Columbia and suburban Maryland. Mm-hmm. So we really can serve the tri-state area, the tri-area. But my primary focus is in Northern Virginia. So if you have anybody out there in the Beating Alpha community that has some real estate needs in this area, please reach out to us.
Got it. So again, probably would need some education on that. So if you can cover a little bit, again, why Virginia is different from, kind of other close states. And I don't know from the top of my head, which would be the closest states, to Virginia, or going to the Southeast, Southwest, which a lot of baby boomers are moving to. Like what makes the state of Virginia different from other states?
Well, in the way back in the day when there was a civil war, Virginia was the South and Maryland was the North, and the District of Columbia was this neutral place. I think we have a little bit more distinctions now. So Virginia does still have some of the remnants of like living in the South, but it is very cosmopolitan and suburban. We have universities, George Mason University and others here in Northern Virginia. The DC, the District of Columbia, which is across the river, which is the Washington DC state of government, has a major basis of employment. So a lot of people work in the city or have jobs that are based out of the city, but they want to live in the suburbs, so they live in Virginia. And Amazon HQ2, Amazon selected Virginia as its second headquarters. Well, for one thing, Jeff Bezos lives here, or he has a house here. But also, I think he saw that it has a lot of quality of life, a little bit better cost of living than other major metropolitan areas, say New York, Boston, although we are still pretty high cost of living, but it has more opportunity for of quality of life, and schools are excellent. And then suburban Maryland really is just the other side of the river. The Potomac River offers, different aspects, but very similar to the fact that it's the suburbs of Washington, D.C.
Got it, got it. And while we're talking right here, I'm just browsing the website, which of course you can find hbcgroup.kw.com. Of course, the link for that is going to be down below. But some beautiful properties that you have in there, for sale. I mean, it's somebody who is from the States and looking to buy something in Virginia, definitely go and browse and see what Karen and Lizzie have. So
Yes. And we like to work with investors too, because I'm an investor myself and happy to help investors make good decisions on their real estate.
There you go. That's super cool. Thank you. Thank you. So one thing that I wanted to ask you, kind of the last question that I have, again, is as you said before, you coaching people, teaching people, speaking with people, being on people podcasts, just like this one, which I really appreciate you, coming on today, and helping people to kind of find their dream home. So, which is an awesome thing as well. But what is the one thing that that you want to leave behind, kind of a legacy?
Oh, you mean the significance? The idea that, if I flip time to love life, if I can do it, you can too. The significance is that what my message is, I can share with you how I did it. I can help you do it for yourself as well.
Beautiful. Here you go. So again, for more information, you have to follow all the links. Make sure to go and check it out because there's a lot. As I mentioned, the website, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube. So a lot to cover for you, a lot of groundwork, and go and check it out. All the links. Make sure you get in contact with Karen. Ask her questions. Could be time management, again, mindset, business. If you're looking to buy a property in Virginia, that's also very good to reach her out. And again, Karen, I really appreciate you being today on the episode. I really enjoyed it. I mean, your story is very interesting. So, and that's what I love the most about all the guests is the stories and the way they think and the way they conduct business and, what they're planning to leave behind them, kind of a legacy part. So that's very interesting. So thank you very much for coming on to this show today. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me part of your Beating Alpha community.
Here you go. Here you go. And make sure you connect with the 5-Minute Success community, of course, and get in contact with her and follow the podcast, where she's dropping some great episodes as well. So guys and girls, one thing that I wanted to ask before we leave, if you share this episode with a friend of yours, who will find this episode valuable? I mean, there's a lot of great valuable pieces as I mentioned, time management, buying property mindset, a lot of different things. So make sure to pass it along. Karen, again, thank you for being on the show. And as always, I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.